Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hello everyone, I'm Adilla Ikhsani. I'm student of Accounting Andalas University 2016. In this video, I would like to share you my thesis presentation. But before we start it, I would like to say thank you so much for all my lecturers, my thesis advisor Mrs. Husna Roza, my thesis viewers, accounting staff, and all my lovely friends. I hope all of you in best health in today. Okay, let's start it. My thesis is about the effect of internal audit quality and the implementation of internal control on the prevention of fraud. Case study BNI Ahmad Yani Padang City. Okay, we move to the chapter 1. The reason why I choose this topic of research because rapid technological change is affecting corporate competition in Indonesia. It can affect operational performance and also cause problems that can hinder business growth, making it difficult for companies to oversee all companies' operational activities. In radically changing corporate environment, the function of internal audit becomes a major supporting function for management, audit committees, auditor, director, and key stakeholders of the company. So management needs internal audit function so that company can achieve the desired level of the performance. The needs for an internal auditor is felt by the company because the internal auditor plays an important role in tackling all forms of fraud. Fraud that occurs in the company threats the survival of the company, and the fraud negatively affect economy as whole by causing huge financial losses, weakening social stability, threatening democratic structure, leading to a loss of trust in the economic system or corruption, and compromising economic and social institutions. So before fraud occurs, we must take prevention through internal audit. Internal audits have important role in the company because internal audits act as an independent appraiser to review the company operation by measuring and evaluating the adequacy of internal control as well as the efficiency and the effectiveness of the company works. In addition to carry out the effective internal audit in the prevention, fraud also require adequate internal control. Some cases of fraud that occurred at BNI in Ambon 2019, which involved case of embezzlement customer fund committed by top management. The embezzlement case of BNI customer fund was revealed after BNI auditor held an internal investigation at the bank. The result of internal investigation found that there is unnatural transaction and investment made by top management and the cost bank up to 58 billion rupiah. And February 2020, the cost up to 134 billion rupiah. From the description case before, we can see that the implementation of internal audit and internal control has not been optimal yet, causing losses to the company. So I interest in conducting research with the title The Effect of Internal Audit Quality and the Implementation of Internal Control on the Prevention Fraud in BNI Ahmad Yani Padang City. So based on the background before, we get the problem formulation. The first one is how much does internal audit quality on the prevention of fraud, and then how much influential is the implementation of internal control on the prevention of fraud. From the problem formulation before, the objective of this research is, the first one is to determine the effect of internal audit quality on the prevention fraud, and then to determine the effect of the implementation of internal audit control on the prevention fraud. For research benefit, this research expected to be used as contribution of knowledge to support accounting knowledge, especially the influence the internal audit and the implementation of internal control on the prevention of fraud. This research benefit for author. This result of this study are expected to provide knowledge about the effect of internal control and the implementation of internal control on fraud prevention, and the author can also find out the truth of the application of the theory that can be lectured with the existing practice in the file. For bank, the result of this study can be used as information and the evaluation material for the implementation of internal audits and the implementation of fraud prevention. And for other parties, this is expected to be a source for the development of the science as means of information for reader who will conduct research on the same field of study. Okay, let's move to the chapter 2, literature review. In literature review consists of agency theory, and agency theory describe internal audit quality, implementation of internal control, and prevention of fraud. Next is previous research. There are many studies found in discussing the effect of internal audit quality and the implementation of internal control on fraud prevention. First, from Budi Fareza in 2014, the result of hypothesis testing indicate that partially in the internal audit and internal control indicate that there is a significant influence on fraud prevention, while simultaneously two variables also show a significant effect on fraud prevention. In the same time, another research by Dania Fitri Mahardani, the research showed that the relationship of internal control to the prevention fraud can be said is very strong. The magnitude of internal control on prevention fraud is influenced by other factors. In 2017, similar research by Edi Sujana and Iputu Dediatmika, empirical study of Bank Mandiri Denpasar City, the result of study show that internal audit has significant effect on fraud prevention and the effectiveness internal control has significant effect on fraud prevention. In 2018, by Tiara Yuliansi, case study Bank Rakyat Indonesia Bandung Regional Office, the result on the study is internal audit and implementation of internal control affect the fraud prevention is influence of other factor outside and the internal audit variable and the implementation of internal control. Another research by Cici Indraliani in 2019, the result of this study indicate that the quality of internal audit affect the prevention fraud. This is because the factor of audit quality has going well and the implementation of internal control has effect on fraud prevention. This is because of the relevant and the quality information and communication factors to support the implementation of useful internal control. Based on previous research before, it can be concluded that the internal audit has significant effect on fraud prevention, and we get two hypotheses. First is internal audit quality influence fraud prevention, and implementation internal control affect the prevention of fraud. Next is theoretical framework. Basically, theoretical framework is derived from several theories and concepts that are relevant to the problems under study, so that it raises assumption in the form of flowchart, which may be formulated into operational hypotheses that can be tested. The theoretical framework for independent variable is in the internal audit quality and the implementation of internal control, and for dependent variable, prevention fraud. Okay, let's move to the chapter 3, research methodology. In this research, the method used is descriptive and verification research method with quantitative approach. Data collected in this research is primary data to questionnaire that distribute with Google Form and processed by statistical application SPSS 24. Questionnaire used in order to get extract required data. The concept of this study consists of independent variable and dependent variable. The model data analysis is multiple linear regression analysis. For data analysis technique consists of 3 tests: data quality test, classic assumption test, and hypothesis test. Data quality test consists of 2 tests: validity test and reliability test. And then for classic assumption test consists of normality test and multicollinearity test. And hypothesis test consists of t-test and f-test. Okay, we move to the chapter 4, result and discussion. From descriptive test result, we get 25 respondents. From the table, we can see all variable tests showed a standard deviation is small than mean. This shows the distribution of variable is small or doesn't have a gap from ratio above between the minimum value and maximum value. Mean from internal audit and implementation of internal control is positive, which is indicate that between internal audit quality and implementation of internal control positively influence prevention of fraud. Next is validity test. From the table, we can see that validity test result obtain error value is bigger than error table. So it can be concluded that the question used in this research are valid. For reliability test, we can see that the Cambridge alpha for internal audit quality, implementation of internal control and prevention fraud is greater than 0.7. So it means that the question applied is in this research is reliable. Next is classic assumption test, consists of normality test and multicollinearity test. For normality test, we can see on the table the value of assumption significant is 0.079, which is greater than 0.05. It means that the regression model meets the normality assumption. And for multicollinearity test, the value of tolerance is greater than 0.1 and the value of FIV is each variable is less than 10. So it means that there is no multicollinearity problem in regression table. Next is hypothesis test result, consists of two tests, t-test and f-test. T-test is used to determine the effect of partially independent variable with respect to dependent variable. Based on the table, we get t-value with degree freedom value is 23. So the value of t-table is 2069. T-value of internal audit quality and internal control is greater than t-table. So partially significant relationship between internal audit quality and implementation of internal control to prevention of fraud. For f-test, we get the f value and greater than f table. So it means that internal audit quality and the implementation of internal control simultaneously influence the prevention fraud. And for significant value is less than 0.05. It means that the internal audit quality and the implementation of internal control simultaneously influence prevention of fraud. Okay, let's move to the chapter 5, conclusion. Conclusion in this research is the quality of internal audit has positive influence on prevention of fraud in PT Bank Negara Indonesia, Ahmad Yani, Padang City. This is because some step has been done by PT BNI Ahmad Yani Padang City. The auditor should properly plan the audit of internal control over financial reporting and properly supervise the engagement team members. Then examiners all existing information to ensure the accuracy of information that available, and then follow up. This accomplishment will prevent the fraud. And then the implementation of internal control affect the prevention of fraud in PT BNI Ahmad Yani Padang City. This is because the relevant and quality information and communication factors to support the implementation of internal control that are useful in PT BNI Ahmad Yani Padang City. And next, the effect of internal audit quality and the implementation of internal control in PT BNI Ahmad Yani Padang City simultaneously influence the prevention of fraud. Next, limitation. This research only examine one company. It would be better if next researchers to add the number company study in order to know the state of quality internal audit, the implementation of internal control, and prevention of fraud, in order company can complete in previous research. And then the respondent was restricted and not only distributed to all employees of BNI Ahmad Yani Padang City, which result in some respondent from other not being represented. Next is recommendation. In order to improve fraud prevention, internal audit must ensure all audit activities are used company operational standard. Immediately report to the board of directors if there are any deviation. Bank must also immediately follow up fraud cases and provide sanctions that can prevent preparators from repeating their action. Internal auditor must increase his professional knowledge in accordance their job description in the company to carry out the audit process, have standardization periodically, and to carry out check on the company operational standard and carry out ongoing evaluation to ensure that internal control is functioned optimally and that the board of commissioner and audit committee is more independent to prevent fraud in PT Bank Negara Indonesia Ahmad Yani Padang City. For the next researcher, it's better to use other company and add the number of company studies so the researcher can further determine the state of the quality internal audit and the implementation of internal control and prevention fraud in other company and can complete the deficiencies in previous studies. Okay, that's all about presentation. Sorry for mistake. Thank you for watching. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.